There we go. Recording now. All right. Welcome to Arise and
Shine,
with Jeanette and
Sandy. It's so weird being here and not being with you.
I know. Greg and I, we keep like catching each other's head cold. So
Well,
I
that's
don't
what's
know.
awesome about Zoom. We can be here together, but not
Yeah, and you
in.
don't catch my head cold
Yeah,
and get the sniffles.
I
Yeah,
don't want. I don't want sniffles because
yeah.
then everybody will look at me in horror if I go anywhere.
Oh God, yeah. Don't even think about sneezing at the store. Speaking of that,
Anyway,
oh, we should probably pray before I ask you what's going on. So let's. Why
I
don't you
say
pray
hello
today?
to everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, so
Let's pray.
okay, sounds good.
Okay.
With me,
Yeah.
me. Oh, here, honey. Oh, great. Thank you, Lord. Oops. There are some sirens outside my door. Oh, okay. Anyway, thank you, Lord, for this time that we're going to have together. We just bless each and every woman and man that's listening to our program today, God, as we study in the book of Esther and about also about Jezebel and Athaliah, God. And as we learn about these women today, just enlighten us, Father, um, that which you would want us to know, God. And thank you so much for this. And we bless your name in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Yes.
Yeah. So
With people's eyes getting all big if you sneeze at the store. What's been going on in the world today, Sandy?
I
I
know
think it's
exactly.
in my house.
So I actually did go to a barbecue today, and it was for a special person. It was within a family, and a very small family. But last night I went to a store to get a fruit tray, and I'm sorry, I just cannot wear the face mask. I couldn't wear the face mask. It was hot. Um, and I just thought, I'm just going to stay 6 feet away from people. But, you kind of just go into the store and you feel like everybody's looking at you if you don't wear that face
Yeah.
mask. So, and then, you kind of have to walk into the store with some confidence too. Like, I'm okay. I'm not sick.
Yeah.
But whatever, I did it. It was fine. And I thought to myself, you know what, people, we do have to develop herd immunity at some point. So if any of you know what herd immunity is, it's what has to happen. Either we get rid of the virus, I'm sure you've all heard, by vaccine. Well, we don't get rid of it, but we control it by vaccine, or we develop herd immunity. So
Which
I'm
means
sure.
you gotta catch it because it's a new virus. It's brand new. Your body
Yeah,
has never felt it
it's
before, seen it, smelled it, whatever.
yeah, true. But Sweden and I forget the other place that never did it. They've
Oh,
got some deaths.
Sweden did. Sweden did. I was on a
Yeah,
conference call. They did social distancing, and
yeah, yeah. They were smart, exactly. So my point is just that I wish the government would trust the people to understand that we can do things modestly. We do have to show the government that, I just don't want them ruling my life personally, but it's like, did everybody lose their brains? But anyway, here we are, and today was an awesome day. So we're taping this on Sunday, and it was also, it's May 17th. So we got to go to church today, for those of us that could go at 10 o'clock. It was so nice to see, you know, the, the 80 of you or so that showed up, which was awesome. And we got to hear Pastor play a song with his guitar, and we got to worship a little bit, and we got to hear the word, and we got to assemble and not forsake the gathering of God's people. So that was awesome. I loved it. And I know we missed you guys there, Jeanette and Ray. But if we're not together next week in our church, I'm sure hopefully we'll all be together next week again, Sunday. So
yeah,
for now, here we
somewhere
are.
in it. somewhere or another. I mean, I got a thing from my dentist, and I mean, still she's this soft opening. They're like, call, we'll tell you when you come in from the
Yeah,
car. You can't even be in the waiting room. You got to wear a mask.
yeah,
I mean, and they're dealing with people like, you know, hazardous material. So
yeah.
this is what my dentist is. So I just,
Right,
what,
right.
we're lucky. You're lucky to have gotten there and been to church with everybody.
Yes,
And
yes. Yeah,
we
being
always
in
said,
Orange County, I have to say, yeah,
yeah,
being in Orange County, I'm glad that that's for, whatever reason that we all practice our social distancing and all that, and we haven't had it as bad as everybody else.
right.
So, okay. Well, anyway,
All
good
right.
work. We'll all
So
be back. Oh,
should we go on to our ladies, the
we should
villain?
go to our
Or,
lady. Yes. So I know we told everybody right last week that we were going to start on the queens and the commoners. So we've got the
Queen.
bad queens.
Yep.
Jeanette, we're going to start with kind of like the bad news first, and then we're going to end with the good news, with the good queens at the end.
Yeah.
And there's so much information that we're going to start. Jeanette's going to start us off with Queen Jezebel.
Yeah, so let me just take you back to my own little personal story of my dealing with the queen bee. So, back when I was, what is it, 19 or something, and I got my first job at a big place, and of course, I didn't have any history, so I was able to get a security clearance, and I'm dealing with the paperwork. So I was like the filer for lots and lots of paperwork. Back when they didn't put it all on computer, they were just starting with that, you know, back in the day. Anyway, there was this one lady who was a queen bee, and sure enough, my boss said have her sign everything, and she was like, "Oh, that's okay. I'll bring it right back. I promise." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And go back, and my boss goes, "Where's that thing?" And I go, "Oh, she says she bring it right back." She goes, "Don't trust her." And sure enough, I went back. It was a document. Okay, these were like secret documents. She's like, "No, I don't have it." I'm like, "You said you were gonna give it." So this girl was not a girl. She's a woman. She was a grown woman, and she just played me because she could, because she had this. She was like the head honcho's secretary, and my boss warned me. That's how she is, and there's just these women out there who are just mean. They're queen bees, and they will sting you because they can. And if you've ran into one of those women, I am so, so sorry. I feel for you. It's nothing about you. It's all about them, and they're just mean, cold heart. Sorry. So we will go on to the first one.
Yeah.
I feel so when I
Wait,
read about these women, I'm like, I feel
remember that sitcom Murphy Brown? Do you remember
vaguely,
with
vaguely, yeah.
Candace Bergen? That's who. Well, your boss from, or whoever that was. That I don't know. I just remember Candace Bergen and Murphy Brown. I'll talk about it later. Anyway, let's
Okay.
start it.
Okay. So
Okay.
on to Jezebel.
Yeah.
She is like the prototype. There's two of these ladies, and they're almost the same cookie cutter. Jezebel. So she's in a lot of places. She starts out with King 1631, where she's married to Ahab, or he marries her. She's a daughter of a Sidonian king. He's not only a king, he's a priest of Baal. So it's like being the pastor's daughter. All right. So she's entrenched in this Baal worship. And she brings this along to the northern territories. At this time, they had been split into the northern territories and the southern territories of Israel. And her and Ahab are quite a team of how to be wrong and do it wrong and totally not do anything for God. So why she's so bad, it goes on to First Kings 18:13. She was out right after they got married. She's like, I'm killing all God's prophets. So she was out there killing. She did it on her own. or with herself, but she's described as being a kind of a masculine. So she might be out there with her own suit of armor slashing people up. But before we get too far, I mean, this is kind of woman this lady is. Her name, her name means unexalted, but it was also translated. This was through. I'm gonna mute you a little bit, Sandy. You're making too much background noise.
Okay.
Yeah, you get a little feedback going on.
Really? I
Yeah.
wonder what it is.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know what that is. Okay, so we're good now though. All
okay.
right. So, uh, okay, so her name means unmarried, which could mean unexalted at that time. Remember the culture. If you're not married, you don't have children, and guess what? You're not exalted. And it also means without cohabitation. So their marriage was probably just a get together. There was no maybe no sex, maybe not real marriage. It was just a like, yeah, I'm the queen. See ya. Because the key he had two palaces, one in Jezreel and another one in Samaria, I believe. So anyway, um, uh, Jezebel's King Ahab's confidant. He thinks of evil. If he doesn't think of it, basically she does. And if she doesn't think of it, it's not out there, probably. So that's how mean she is. She is mean. Okay. And Ahab complains to her, I want Naboth's field. I want a vegetable garden. He won't give it to me because it belongs to his family. She's like, take care of it. She gets evil people basically to lie. They kill off Naboth. Basically, they accuse him of blaspheming God, and then he he's stoned to death. So they get the field. So she's conniving. She knows people that will do dirty work. So she's just hooked into just evil. Let's see. That is Kings 21 through let's see 5, 7, 11, 14, 15 were the death of Naboth. Okay. Oh, yeah, yeah. And 1 Kings 21:25, there was never anyone like Ahab who sold himself to do evil in the eyes of the Lord, urged on by Jezebel, his wife. And then it was prophesied that Jehu would take out this family. So Jehu ends up, uh, after Ahab dies, he gets a prophet telling him that he's gonna be the one. He's gonna be the next king. So he does his business, and he's told even to take out the evil queen. He does it. He kills Ahab's son. He kills. This is very important. He kills Ahaziah, the king of the south of Judah, and he kills all Ahab's sons. After he does that, he is on the track for Jezebel, and he gets to her place. And this is how Jezebel is. She's like the most conniving woman in every way possible. In every way possible. So what she does is you've heard about putting on her makeup, and then like the old movies and stuff. If they put on makeup, they're like, oh, you're Jezebel. And that's just a silly way of war paint. It was Jezebel's war paint. And what she did was she put on her makeup, she got dressed up, which was probably not a whole lot of clothing. And so she's standing at her window when Jehu comes through, and she's basically, hey, big boy, let's talk about it. And this is how she is, ew, right? And so Jehu doesn't care. He's like, if you're for me, toss her out. He tells the eunuch. So this is the end of Jezebel. Horrific, horrible, horrible death. You probably can't unread it once you read it. Basically, she falls down, splatters on the ground as he's riding through. His horse tramples what's left. He goes in, has lunch, and then he goes, she's a queen. We should probably go bury her. So when they go out, they don't find a whole lot because as predicted, the wild dogs had eaten most of her, except for her palms.
That was prophecy, right? Wasn't that prophecy?
That was prophetic, yeah, and that was what was given to Jehu, or actually, no, that was given to Ahab when he took Naboth's field. Yep. Yeah.
Elijah said that, right?
Elijah. Yeah. And oh yeah, she also threatened Elijah. Thank you for reminding me about Elijah. After he killed um, the prophets of Baal, 400 prophets of Baal, he had invited the Astaroth. She likes the Astaroth ones. Of course she does. Because Astaroth is, think about porn, think about the erotica. She's all about this. And that's why she's like, hey, Jehu, let's talk about this, right? So she's working this. It's like this the feminine strength once again, kind of like Delilah, where using sex as a weapon. So she's got weapons all over. She's like a Swiss Army knife of evil weapons, right? And how not to wield your femininity. Ah, all right. Check.
Okay.
Jezebel done, which leads us to evil woman number 2. Athaliah or Thelia or however you want to pronounce it. She is the mama of the king of Judah of the south, 2 regions, right? She's south. He was killed by Jehu, and so that was her son, and her husband's dead. Her son's dead. So what does any evil queen bee do? She kills her grandkids and any other male heir.
Wow.
Yes. Can you imagine killing your own grandbabies, right? Because you want to be in charge. This woman is just.
Oh, because she wanted to be queen forever.
She wanted to be queen and nobody was getting in her way, right? Nobody was getting in her way. So who is she? She is, they say the king of Omri, which would be, or King Omri, which would be Ahab's. She would either be Ahab's sister, but there's also stuff written that she's Ahab's daughter, which means Jezebel had a huge influence. Either way, these 2 ladies, bounce their evil off of each other. And they were likes like, even when it's not likable. So, she kills her grandbabies and reigns for 6 years. 6 years. Now, the kid that was stolen away by let's see, Ahaziah's sister, so her daughter, and she was married to the chief priest Jehoiada, something like that. Oops, my doggies are barking. And he was hidden from her for 6 years. He was just a little bitty baby. She hid him, and basically he came to reign at like 6 or 7 years old because this lady was bad. Let me tell you how bad she was, because I know you're asking, how bad was she, Jeanette? She was so bad that after she was Second Chronicles 23:1, all the people in the land rejoiced after they had slain Athaliah. All the people in the land rejoiced. Right? What's that telling you? Maybe they didn't like me. Yeah, we don't like you. Yeah, and she was going to be killed in the temple because she comes in. It's like, what's this commotion? Because they made this little boy the king. And she's, what's this commotion? And then they start taking her out. And Jehoiada says, nope, not in the temple. And so she runs out, and then they finish her off just before she gets to the king's castle, whatever you call it, his house, the king's house. Yeah, take him out. Take her out. Yeah. So she's described as evil woman. Oh, why she's so evil? Why she's so evil? So now, where Jezebel took out the prophets, Athaliah, she broke down parts of the temple so she can create a altar for her Baal. What? And she takes all the temple goodies, like all the serving things, what the things they use, and she uses it for her Baal worship. So she desecrates everything. She's one icky lady. Yeah, icky lady. Okay, and then when she's yeah, when she's finally taken out at the end, she calls treason, treason. This is in Second Chronicles 23:3. She calls treason, treason. You know, how dare you make the real king of the king, and I'm the queen. When he should have been dead, right? She's, yeah, this woman ain't right. So yeah, and described as that wicked woman. So, Sandy, tell me something nice. Tell me something nice. These are bad ladies.
Yeah, it's kind of like you fell down the rabbit hole,
I
Alice's rabbit hole, and there's just a lot.
Yeah, off with their heads. Off with their heads. Yeah, they're some mean ladies. Yeah, and there's no reasoning with these ladies. Just so you know, you're like, oh, maybe it's their bad childhood. No, they don't care. They want power. They don't. Yeah, they will kill you. They will mess up your life.
Hmm.
Just keep away. Just if you focus on what you need to do. Yeah.
Is there anyone that reminds you today of that? And
Oh, I
dare
don't.
I say,
Oh,
in
don't even want to go there. Don't even want to go there.
okay, I won't say it, Nancy Pelosi, but okay, never mind. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I don't mean to offend anyone. I know she. Anyway. Okay, so wow, that's a lot. We could have probably just done one whole study on each one of those women, but
Right. They are. You thought Delilah was bad. These guys are bad to the bone.
yeah.
They use their femininity to protect
How
their.
did they become queens? Really? It's like,
They were the daughter of. They're the privileged. They're the privileged. Think about some people who are privileged who are really jerks,
yeah.
and that's kind of like them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Born
Or
into
some,
privilege.
yeah, born into privilege.
Yep.
And ruling the world and not having understanding. I think,
Right.
we can even think of that on a way of like businesses, in the way of businesses, like the Hilton fortune. We think of Paris Hilton, and she had her little stunt. Remember years ago when she was popular and in the media, and people wondered, what is this girl going to do with that Hilton fortune? But so anyway, she was again born into privilege, into a
Right.
privileged
Right.
position.
Right.
That's the
Yes.
point.
And that kind of takes me on a little rabbit trail. It's interesting that the Astaroth uh, is is a is I did a little side study of Aster, and beyond sex, she's culture, sloth, philosophy. Thinks of those who sit around and ponder things. That's kind of, or they like to argue because this and this and this. This is all that same kind of Jezebel. When you hear Jezebel spirit, that's what's going on there. So
Okay.
it's interesting that you say that, all these privilege, you think you can think clearer than other people, than the common people, that they won't have their own common sense to choose what's right. Yeah,
Right, right.
that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting.
common people.
Okay. So let's shift the paradigm now.
Take me.
And let's talk about, let's go to let me pull my commentary up here on, help me out with Esther here. So we're going to go to the book of Esther right now, everybody.
Love
which was around, 480, the time. So let me set up the context a little bit. This is Esther belongs to the period of after the Babylonian exile, when Persia had replaced Babylon as the ruling power. So, some of the Jews, wherever they were different, some of like the Jews most of them went back. Well, I don't know. I've been reading about different things that Jews came back at different times. So this was a little minority group of Jews that stayed. You think about it, like they had to, they were in captivity, and then what happens sometimes, you kind of like the new place that you're at, even though you're really not supposed to be there. So they were actually being in kind of, in direct defiance to God, because they were supposed to go back to Jerusalem and they didn't. So now this is kind of what they're bringing upon themselves at this time. So this is the time of King Ahasuerus, and I thought that was his name, but that wasn't his name. His Greek name was Xerxes, but Pastor was telling me that King Ahasuerus is kind of like president, what we would think of like president, but yeah, his name Xerxes. So anyway, the small group that was still there, that was Esther and Mordecai. So Esther was a Jewish girl who became the queen of Persia by some, really, I should say, divine providential happenings that happened to her, because weirdly enough, God, and I know we've all probably heard this about the book of Esther, but God is not mentioned once in the entire book of Esther. And, but in really reading it, and I never knew that part of it before, I just assumed because it's in the Bible that God is directing that whole everything that was happening. But so that's one interesting thing. And then we don't know who the actual author is of Esther either. So, and then you kind of wonder, like, well, then why is Esther in the Bible? But they have the feast in there, which is the Feast of Purim, and I'll explain that in a moment. So it's very important to Jewish culture, this Feast of Purim, and that's why it's probably in the Bible. Anyway, so setting it up, though, this is that time, I think you could think of like Arabian Nights, and so I think of like, what do I think of? Veggie Tales. Esther and Veggie Tales, and just, like beautiful palm trees. And this is just like a really good time, because this king was really extravagant, probably like all kings. And what do they want to do? They want to show off their riches and their wealth and everything that they attained. And so, they do this by throwing all these lavish feasts and festivals and things like that. So in doing so, we get to the story of Esther. But at the time, she's not queen yet. It's Queen Vashti, who is another woman, another queen, who, we don't know too much about her, but we know that she did not listen to the king in the way that, that she didn't listen to the king in the way that during one of his feasts, he wanted her to basically, I don't know, I get the idea, he wanted her to come out and parade, maybe naked, maybe immodestly, I don't know, but because all it tells you is she became indignant and didn't want to come out. She just refused. So you can only imagine what he may have been asking of her. And back then, the men, I guess, used to argue about who had the most beautiful women in the kingdom, in all the different kingdoms. So he probably wanted to show her off because she was a very beautiful queen, but she said no. So anyway, he was so incensed and became enraged, and he was like a really capricious king, which, means he was just fickle. He like could snap, and he'd be going one way, and then all of a sudden it's like he's mad. So he basically told her, "You're not going to be queen anymore. I'm going to find a new queen." And so a bunch of virgins were got rounded up, basically, and Esther was one of them. And she was an orphan, so interesting, It doesn't really tell you if she has a faith, But the things she does that we see that she's going to do kind of shows that she definitely has loyalty to her people. She is wise. She's very strategic. Yeah, just things just like she has trust in God, even though God's not mentioned. So it's pretty awesome. So anyway, the story goes, so she, of course, goes into that harem kind of like place where I guess all the virgins go, and then they get, and that's the other weird thing, is that they spend like, I don't know, a really long time in preparations. And I was thinking, it said in preparations with essential oils and things like I thought, what if you have allergies? If you have allergies, you're just screwed. I mean,
you puff up and you're out of the harem, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think it's like 3 months, right? It's like 3 to 6 months. They were like prepared.
The preparations to be, you know. So anyway,
a lot of waxing.
I digress, but I thought that was a bit funny. So the king does take a liking to her, and soon she gains his favor, and that's because she does things along the way too. Maybe the way that she sets herself apart. She said, like, I don't really want to take anything, because you can. I guess when you get called by the king, you come to his house, or his palace, because so you can imagine this grand area, and the king's got his own quarters, like his own palace, and then there's the palace where everybody else is, and then there's another palace for the women. So you can imagine these grounds, different things. But the king it sounded like he had a place where he could sit in his throne, and he could look out onto the courtyard and see everything that's going on and everybody that's coming into the inner court. So it's just really kind of cool. It makes me think of Downton Abbey or something. But
can I interrupt? But one of the smart things she does is she asks one of the eunuchs that's taking care of her,
yes,
for advice. I don't. Yeah. Sorry,
No, I wasn't going to say that. Yeah. I know there's all these little details. That's why I said we could literally spend one whole thing on one person. But yeah, her eunuchs and her maidservants are very important to her. I don't know. Maybe you can point out, but I do know. Sorry, somebody keeps. Oh my, where are you? Where did you go? Oh, Jeanette, hang on for a second.
I hear you, but I don't see you.
Oh,
I can hear you. There you go.
Okay, there we are. Sorry. Sorry, somebody keeps texting me. Where was I? Oh yeah. So basically, I guess she's asked to. She can take whatever she wants into the king's court. She tells them, I don't want to take anything. It's okay. So she comes off like this real, like, kind of like simple woman. I don't need too much, and very noble in some respects in character also. So I think the king, because he sees apparently a lot of women, right? And so maybe all of them are just trying to woo him with their beauty, and yes.
He knows a gold digger when he sees one. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and she had other characteristics, right, that she was able to show him that she was a bit different, a lot different, probably. So anyway, that's my take on why she was picked. But also because God has been in the inner workings ever since the beginning on this. Anyway, so she quickly replaces Queen Vashti. Queen Vashti is dethroned. Esther then now rises up and is the king's favorite. And then the plot starts now. So now at the same time, you've got her uncle or cousin Mordecai, who took care of her, who always sits at the king's gate, by the way. And you can tell that he's, very interested in his roots and his people, the Jewish people. And you could, another thing, I just think that, maybe he's thinking, he knows, he kind of has like enough of the wisdom to know that Esther could have been saved or put into this position for, all these commentaries say for such a time as this, that she was probably chosen to do this thing here. And this thing is a big thing. But anyway, so then enters Haman, the bad dude. So Haman, at the same time as Queen Esther is, rising, the king makes this guy Haman basically second in command over all the, people. And so one day, whatever, he's walking around and Mordecai doesn't bow down to him. Well, Mordecai's Jewish, and he knows, and Haman, an Agagite, who I thought I read somewhere that he was from originally like a Canaanite. So anyway, Mordecai cannot bow down to Haman. He cannot bow down to Haman, period. A Jew should not and cannot do that if they follow the customs. So anyway, he gets upset. He's like a Hitler, and he has this decree over all the land and goes to the king, and the king, basically the king's kind of like, you know what? And Haman's like, there's these certain people who have these rules and laws that don't follow yours, and the king's just like, well, do whatever you want with them.
Right. He spins it really well, though. He spins it really well that that their trouble for the kingdom is how he puts it. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. He's okay. Exactly. That is so great. He's crafty, but Queen Esther is strategic. That's the way I like to look at it. They're actually kind of the same. They're both playing the same hand, and that's what's so great about God here. So it pivots, though, because you think, oh man, how are they going to get out of this? Because now he just wrote this decree that's going to basically annihilate the Jews off the face of, this king was king over 127 provinces. That's like huge. I was reading all the lands that it was over. So this would have absolutely changed everything. We can look back and kind of look at, this is our Christian heritage as well. Because if this did not happen, what Esther does, we would not have what we have today as far as our Christianity is concerned. Mm-hmm. So anyway, so he's plotting, and he's like, on this one guy, and you think, really, you're going to destroy an entire people because you're mad that this one guy will not bow down to you at the gates. Mm-hmm. But we know that Satan was behind that and probably pushing Haman to do that. So at the same time, right, Mordecai finds out, right? And Mordecai, a little bit of history of Mordecai. Mordecai stopped, there were two eunuchs that wanted to lay hands on the king and, overthrow him. And Mordecai found out, told Esther, Esther told the king had those two people hanged, and never gave any kind of reward or anything to Mordecai. So the plot thickens. So now we have Haman and his killing decree, basically, right. His killing spree decree over the Jews. He's basically, has anxiety about it. He also tells Esther. Esther has great distress about it because at this point, I believe neither Haman nor the king knows that she is also of Jewish descent. So the plot thickens even more. And
it's like a good soap opera, huh?
Yeah, so it's a really good soap opera at this point. So, and so now Esther has her plan. She becomes strategic again now too. And she's like, okay, what am I going to do? I'm going to throw a feast. I'm going to go before the king. But you can't go before the king, because if you go before the king, he might, not put his scepter out to me, and then I might get killed. So I have to have two feasts now. And I'm going to invite Haman. So she does that. And basically at the first feast, and it's funny the way she says it too, because she says, if it pleases the king, and if it, so she speaks like that. And if you want to please me, then invite Haman to this banquet. And then also tomorrow night, invite Haman to the banquet too. So Haman goes the first night, and she's got him going. He's all excited. He's like, yeah, I get invited to the king's palace. I'm going to have dinner with them. And he goes home and he tells his wife, Zeresh, and, oh, they just love me, blah, blah, blah. And then the second night of the feast.
Don't forget what him and his wife planned for Mordecai.
That's right.
At this time. This is a big pivotal thing.
This is, yeah, the pivotal moment.
They're like Esther and Jezebel planning here.
Esther and Jezebel planning, right?
I'm
And it's
sorry,
just,
I'm sorry.
it's,
No, Ahab and Jezebel.
oh, okay.
Esther's good. Esther's good.
Right, right. Well, funny you say that, because it's actually his wife who brings up the idea. Oh, honey, why don't you build a gallows to hang Mordecai on?
Mm-hmm.
And so she gives him that idea, and he goes out and he builds it that night. And this is the gallows, as we know, is going to hang Haman, in fact, not Mordecai. So they do that. And so, and not only that, but what's funny is, oh man, I don't know how that happened, but that's right. Haman had to parade around because he saw how much the king actually liked.
Because the king couldn't sleep. Yeah, the king couldn't sleep, and so he had him read the old journals. That would put anybody to sleep.
The King's Chronicles. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And we know that again was God.
Right.
God put that in the king's brain that he could not sleep that night. It doesn't say that, but we know that probably had happened.
Insomnia on there. Yeah. And then what did they read?
He remembered
the eunuch thing, and did I ever reward Mordecai? So yeah, take it away, Sandy.
Right. So it kind of made Mordecai, it made Mordecai favored in the king's eyes. And so it just really all blew up on Haman, because Haman was thinking, who does the king like more than I? And then he finds out that, oh, what? It's Mordecai that I have to, yeah. So he had to suck it up and for a little bit, play to Mordecai. And this is all happening like in real time within 2 days of one another. He goes to that second feast, which he thinks, okay. And that's where Esther again starts with, if it pleases the king, And so he says, yes, anything you want, up to half of my kingdom. And she says, and now she starts to put, I'm sure, the waterworks on. Oh, but my people, they're getting killed, and they're blah 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 about the and it's this man here, Haman, who's doing it. And so the king had to repeat himself. Yeah, I mean, he didn't just blow up either. It says that he went out to his garden to think, because remember, he really liked Haman for whatever reason, I don't know, but he did. So he had to go out to the garden, but he did come back in and say, would you even do this to my queen in my own house? And so,
and why he said that was Haman was like begging for mercy, and he fell on top of the queen. You didn't touch the queen then, but he's like, oh, kill me. He's touching her. He's groping her.
I know.
And then the king walks back in and is like, what?
Yeah. What a wimp.
Right.
Just, anyway, just reminds me of all those toothless people in those movies that you see, and all of a sudden it's kind of like, it reminds me of Frosty the Snowman. That's what happened to the magician guy. Remember when when Santa came and, oh, Santa, do you have anything in your bag for me? And he was just like, I'm sorry. Anyway, I digress. Yeah. So, but that's the story basically. And Haman, of course, got hanged on the gallows that he and his wife built for Mordecai. So it's funny to note how everything came full circle. Everything that was actually planned on Mordecai and Esther and the Jewish people actually came back onto Haman's own head. And, it's not that God has a sense of humor, but he does have a sense of humor because those things were definitely planned for the Jewish people. And so therefore the Jewish people were saved. Queen Esther was the one who saved them, if it wasn't for her and Mordecai. And so they celebrated, they also hung Haman's 10 sons as well after the fact too. And then they had a feast. They got to rest from running from their enemies. And in fact, the Jewish people got to turn around and you know,
Are you allowed to
would
fight?
fight. Yeah. And fight.
Yeah,
And,
to, how do you say,
yeah.
protect themselves?
I
Yeah.
don't even get anyway, because it's like, if somebody were coming to kill me, I'm not going to be like, okay, here you go, kill me. Oh, now I can fight you.
Well, because they were all, because it's all in the legalities, because he put that they were going to take him out on the Jewish people on such a day, and now because Mordecai, he couldn't scratch that, he said, well, they can retaliate and protect themselves and take, instead of those people taking the spoils of the Jewish people, then they could take the spoils of the people who attacked them. So
Right.
it's like,
And they did
well,
not
do I
touch
really want to
any
do
of
that?
it, though. Yeah, they did not take any of the spoils, it says.
Right, right.
Yeah.
They
So,
want this stuff. But the cool thing about Esther is she prayed, and I think that's what sets her apart as far as is that she
did she
wanted to
pray?
fast.
She fasted. She fasted. And
I thought she fasted and prayed and asked for prayer. Didn't she ask for prayer?
She asked the people to, yeah, she asked the people to fast and to pray. It's funny, they never show her, it didn't say she did it herself. Oh no, she did say to fast for me, because I don't know if she couldn't do that in the palace or whatever, but she said, have the people fast for me. I will also do that. So it's really kind of vague as to exactly what she did, but again, with the whole, so her and Mordecai are actually not the quintessential, like, you know, ideals for like the moral ideals, but they do show trust, loyalty, and in God, in that roundabout way, you know, and God's divine providence. So I do get it. It was awesome. I like it more than I did before, because, you know, everybody used to talk about the Book of Esther, and I'd be like, oh yeah, it's a nice story, but I never really got into it. So until now.
So and think of Xerxes, and I was trying to do a study, and there's this and there's a question whether it's actually Xerxes or Artaxerxes, but if it's Xerxes, think he was the guy who tried to conquer the 300.
It is Artaxerxes. I think his full name is Artaxerxes.
Okay, so
but
yeah,
short they say Xerxes.
he was that guy. He was that guy that went all the way to Greece to try to conquer and eventually did conquer the 300. That's how huge his kingdom was.
Oh, that movie, I remember.
Yes, and remember, it takes a really puffed up guy to expand themselves that big. So for her to say, if it's the will of my king, she's got to be super respectful of him, because this guy has conquered, has trampled on some tough people, like the people of 300, you know, that clan, they would kill their own babies that were sickly. They would only keep the healthy ones. So he had to be that much tougher, this ruling monarch, right? And so that's where Queen Esther's respect. And that's why when he gets drunk and wants his wife to come out naked, she's supposed to come out naked, you know, and Vashti didn't want to do it. So that's why she was out. Yeah, that's the kind of guy that Artaxerxes was. Any other thoughts? We kind of got to wrap this up.
Is that, you know, on a life application level now, I was thinking, excuse me, that no matter how things look, because if you think about that plot that was going on in those 2 days where everything was coming to a halt, and it really looked like it could have gone Haman's way, because that we believe in God, no matter what's going on, how bad things look, I believe, and we have to believe if we're Christians, that God, no matter what things look like this pandemic, and in a moment, it can completely pivot, because that's what it did in the story. The whole thing pivoted, and then it was just like the downfall of Haman, where it looked like it was going to go not that way, but God turned it like that. So I thought that's my note. That's my closing note on that. And then the Feast of Purim, so the Jews celebrate to this day. So.
Yep.
Okay.
Remembering that, and the prayer and the fasting for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yay. Okay. Well, we need to finish this up. Any closing thoughts for our Rise and Shiners?
Just want to go, over again. Anybody new watching? If you're watching, you're welcome to come join us Thursday morning now live. Come back to the occc.church website. Go hit the words under our logo and scroll down to the Zoom link, and you can join us Thursday mornings live, where we will rehash some of this stuff out. There's questions. If you want to do a study online, right above that, where you can download it. It's a PDF too. So if you want to do that, you can do that. And other than, we'd love to see you. And it was nice seeing you all today back at church. And we'll see what this looks like when we all come back. All right. Okay. So wrap it up. All right.
Thanks for coming out for Arise and
Shine. And we'll see you Thursday morning, 7:30 a.m.
All right. Bye-bye, you guys.